I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist with Liger Partners. You're listening to The Claw, which is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I am joined today by an often guest, Stella Huffman. She's over our social media team, and we are going to do another Halloween kinda themed conversation today. So we're going to talk about some social media horror stories. So if you are one of those C-suite marketing executives, you're always afraid of what that message might be, right? And, you know, like so many messages that come out of marketing departments are so carefully crafted, like they work on the press release for weeks and whatever, and social media is one of these things that happens, but sometimes when it happens, it happens. Okay, so you have some examples from some things that like some big companies have done.
Yeah.
And when we work with some smaller companies, I always tell them, I'm like, you could be a trend, but you probably don't want to be.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. It's like in your mind, you probably think you want to be up there and you want to be recognized like the big brands, but then I don't think you realize what that might mean. Exactly. So one of them that I remember is when Amazon Prime Day first kind of launched. They took that to Twitter to start their Amazon Prime hashtag. So everyone's like, all right, Prime Day, you know, the spin on their Cyber Monday, and everyone goes to Amazon Prime and they see the deals are like 10 cents off of the PS4 and like $1 off of like these items. So everyone started screenshotting those and just replying with hashtag Amazon Prime fails. So, you know, I guess they thought that they had this big thing going for them, and people got there and they're like, 10 cents off, this is a deal? And so, you know, that hashtag just completely flipped. But I mean, we still have Amazon Prime Day today, and it's gotten a lot better.
It's a much better.
Then. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to me that would be their. You'd think they'd almost want to like give away something really big for the first one.
Exactly.
Right? Free, but.
It sounds like they might not have thought it all the way through the first time, but maybe that hashtag Amazon Prime Day fails just put them in their place, and they said, we've got to get our deals better for this day, or else we're going to get backlash.
Well, they're probably like looking at like how many people use it, and they're like, well, we have to multiply that out, but that's not how the consumer thinks about it. They're like, I'm getting 10 cents.
10 cents off. Yeah. Another one was DiGiorno Pizza. They misused a hashtag. So this kind of plays into
my number one fear, just so everyone knows. That or an emoticon. I'm like, I'm not sure which one this was yet. So go ahead. But
that's exactly, it's just brands have to understand like the context behind hashtags. They got to do a little bit of investigating before piggybacking off of it. So the hashtag was like why I stayed, and you know, it ties into like maybe domestic violence and very serious stories. And so they piggybacked off the hashtag why I stayed, you had pizza.
Wow.
And so whoever tweeted that just didn't do their investigating because it backfired on them. And I mean, you know, you can look at it as a simple mistake, but in the long run, just a little bit of time investigating into these things before trying to hop on the trend can really save you.
A lot of damage.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. I did not hear that one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we got that one. U.S. Airways, an employee accidentally responded with an inappropriate picture to a customer who was complaining about their flight got delayed or canceled or something. Twitter is a great place for any airline to get a hold of them. Like, if your flight gets canceled, you just go to Twitter and you hash it out with them, and usually that's how you get in contact with their customer service people. But I don't know how it happened. It was just a very X-rated photo that an employee mistakenly responded to a customer, and it just went berserk. Like, people just were like, what? And yeah, I'm sure that employee might have gotten fired. So
yeah, I mean, what's interesting, that always reminds me is, you know, they love to do the net promoter score thing, which is like, how likely would you be to refer this business? And I have a friend who travels a lot, and she's like, every single time my flight gets canceled, I get one of those, how likely are you to recommend this airline? And she's like, not very likely.
Zero.
Right? This is not a good time to be asking me that question. Like, I am stuck in an airport. I am not going to recommend you. So
read the room.
Exactly, read the room. Too funny. Yeah, so, and then thinking about that, like the guardrails on that too, because social is like you have to be in the moment, but at the same time you've got to have people that know how to respond correctly. Like there's this. It's a very interesting little wild west world. Right?
Yeah, it is, because you don't want to leave a customer, especially an unsatisfied customer, hanging. You want to, reach out to them, get a response. I don't know if it was like a slip of the finger when they were going to, click in a GIF or something. I have no idea how that picture ended up with the response, because the response and the picture did not match each other. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate, because it's like I guess they were trying to do their job and getting back to that customer, but they made a big mistake.
So as we're talking about Twitter, one of the reasons I really liked Twitter in the early days is you could get customer service really quickly, and I almost got a divorce over that. We were watching an Auburn game. It was like 11:30 at night, and our cable was like weird, right? My wife is a huge Auburn fan, right? And so I think it was like fourth quarter, last minute, something important, right? And I'm like on with Comcast going like, our cable's da da da. Like, oh, well, we'll reset your router for you. And they reset the router.
Oh, no.
And she like looked at me and she's like, what did you just do? And I'm like, I just got customer support to fix our cable. And she's like, I'm going to kill you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my boyfriend's an Alabama fan, and if I did that, it's something about Alabama and Auburn fans. It's a different breed down in Alabama. Yeah.
Yep, they are. So, okay, what else you got?
So this one didn't start on social media, but it made its way to social media. So
doesn't everything end up on social media?
Exactly. So it's like, you got to be careful wherever you go, because a screenshot and being posted to Twitter is usually how it'll end up. Right. But Adidas sent out an email to, I guess, everyone who completed the Boston Marathon, and the subject line was, "Congrats, you survived the Boston Marathon." This was obviously after the incident had happened at the marathon, and I mean, it ended up on Twitter like that by so many people who had received the email. And I mean, athletes, celebrities, people chiming in. Just once again, that's one of those, I'm sure it was not meant that way. Exactly. And you got to take that little extra time to just make sure that your words are not coming across in a negative manner. Yeah. So just poor choice of words.
But yes, and it's because things are like there's always this like balance, right? Because we want clients to get ahead. Hey, let's get ahead, but then at the same time, then you're pre-programming towards something, and what if things change? So this balance of what can you do ahead versus being tone deaf to something.
Exactly.
So really, you've got to be on top of it. It's not you're not allowed to ignore like current topics and things going on when you're in that space.
Yeah.
So,
and you're so right, because like there is this like battle of, we want to really get ahead, but you're so right. What if something comes up and we forget to go back and
think about
fix whatever we already had out there? So like, you're absolutely right about that.
The person who programmed that email may have been on vacation that week.
Exactly.
Right? And they're just like, I had no idea,
Exactly.
To change it.
And I mean, it took off. And, it's one of those things when this happens to your brand, like you've also got to figure out ways to recover from it. So, like I said, everything stays on the internet, or it's screenshotted in someone's phone. It doesn't just go away. So then, you not only have that boo-boo, but now you're having to figure out a plan to really recover from it, but also not in a...
It's going to be an authentic way.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the perfect way to put it. You want to do it in an authentic way, and so it snowballs into a lot. Just one little mistake.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do one more, and we'll go to a commercial break. And then when we come back and talk about a few more, I do think some tips and tricks maybe around like how do we recover?
Yeah.
What are some good ideas or ways to kind of when something happens? Because eventually, if you're doing the right things in marketing and social media and stuff, you're going to do something that you might have to apologize for.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
So I'll go with McDonald's. They're a huge brand, and they have major following. So they sponsored a hashtag called Mixed Stories, and their intent was for positive feedback and people sharing their great experiences at McDonald's. And I mean, this happened 10 years ago, so this was also kind of in that time where Twitter was just picking up. And but I mean, they had users just taking that and making jokes and like you said, like, ice cream machine, like, why aren't you working? You know, it just did not turn out the way that they wanted it to. And I mean, they had to take the campaign down after 2 hours.
So I'm talking today with Stella Huffman. She's our social media manager here at Liger. You're listening to The Claw. Merrick Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist, and we will be back in just a minute.
The Claw podcast is brought to you by Liger Partners. Liger Partners is a premier marketing firm where we save the world from boring, broken marketing. We get underdogs recognition because you deserve it. For more information, go to ligerpartners.com and follow us on all social media platforms at Liger Partners.
And we're back. You're listening to The Claw. I'm Merrick Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger Partners. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. We're talking today with Stella Huffman. She's our social media manager here at Liger. She's responsible for all the different things that happen for our clients on social media. We're talking kind of Halloween, scary themed story today about social media horror stories. So things that happen on social media that maybe weren't expected. And Twitter seems to be the consistent theme here. There's a lot of Twitter problems. We should
Twitter.
be like, avoid the Twitters,
yes.
right? So anyway, so what's another one that you've seen sort of happen in a way that maybe a brand didn't expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cinnabon, cinnamon rolls, you know, they play into a bunch of things when it comes to, when they're hot cinnamon rolls. So when Carrie Fisher passed away, they wanted to, you know, send their condolences through a tweet, and they had a photoshopped picture of her with her famous Star Wars bun, and they photoshopped a Cinnabon onto her bun. And, you know, in the tweet, you'll always have the best buns in the galaxy. All right, probably a little maybe insensitive, but they also, May the 4th of that same year, May the 4th be with you, used the same photo and then said that she had the second best buns to theirs. So you can't just like go back.
It's not like you can promise.
Yeah.
They're like, we apologize for the last time. Whoops, we did it again. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was just a little, people, especially Star Wars fans, like Star Wars fans, they don't play around.
No,
and
we don't.
They were upset. Well, you know, that's like my fun fact is I've never seen Star Wars.
That's not a fun fact.
But
why do people think that not having seen Star Wars is a fun fact?
Okay, it's an interesting fact. Let's put it that way. Maybe it's not fun.
I might give you that.
You're right.
You see, it just means potentially bad upbringing, just so you can know. So the reason my daughter is a Star Wars fan is when Star Wars, because they re-released all the movies when they did. And so I took her to the theater and she watched like the first, depending upon how you count them, right?
Yeah.
She watched the first one just like I did in the theater, and then we went and saw the others. So
You're so right about that.
Past the generation.
Because my boyfriend is so surprised every time I'm like, I've never seen that movie. It's jaw to the floor, like, how? And I just never really grew up watching movies. So I think you're right about that.
Okay, well, maybe, well, that's like, you know, Courtney, who was here. She was never.
No, I'm not at Courtney's
never
level.
Got a pop culture reference.
She had never seen, like, Lion King. Like, that is, I've seen the classics.
I would say Star Wars is a classic.
I was literally just about to say, except for Star Wars.
You've seen E.T., yes? No?
No.
Okay, see? You haven't seen the classics.
You're right.
I'm just really old.
No, I haven't. You're right.
What's another one? Well, okay, so did you see Game of Thrones? I didn't either, so there you go.
Okay, awesome.
I was like one of the few people in the world.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Because I saw somebody tweet or so talk about it. Anyone who hasn't seen Game of Thrones is like, you know, you're tough, like, like nobody can sway you, right? Because like that was all going on, and I'm like, we've not even seen one episode. But
we haven't seen any Game of Thrones, but yeah.
Okay, so what's another horror story?
So another horror story. Once again, another company thought they were really going with a positive hashtag. It was the NYPD, and they started a hashtag MyNYPD, and it was, you know, in their minds thinking, you know, people are going to hashtag MyNYPD and all the great things that they do, charitable stuff, you know, things along those lines, and it ended up just completely flipping, people taking pictures of cops parked in the bike lane or illegally parked or like speeding, and you know, it was just one of those instances that people took that and ran the complete opposite direction.
Well, you know, you think the brands, because like you talked about McDonald's earlier, and they're brands and organizations that people either love or they hate, right?
Yep.
Like there's visceral response. Either you love them or you hate them. That's where, like, I'm a Starbucks person, but there's some people who are like, I hate Starbucks, right?
Yep.
But I can't stand Dunkin' Donuts, right? And so that's where I feel like you really have to be very careful. Is if you've done such a good job, let's say, of creating a brand that has a visceral response to do like a feel good, you have to be careful because you're going to get the other side of that as well.
Yep.
And there's no way to really filter that.
And I feel like brands sometimes miss, like especially when they, you know, are building a campaign and they're super like excited about it.
It sounded really good in the agency office.
Exactly. It sounded so good, but they're completely putting on their rose-colored glasses to the bad. Yeah. And, you know, you're always going to have to expect the bad that's going to come with it. And especially, you know, brands that are in you know, in the light, and you know, NYPD, they have not maybe been in the positive light, you know, all the time. And so you have to be prepared for that.
So, okay, so let's go into that a little bit. So prepared. So I tweet something, or, you know, the company does whatever, and it doesn't hit the way I expected. So do you immediately take it down? Do you start a apology? Like, how do you approach it? Do you just pretend like it didn't happen?
Yeah, so I definitely think it's situational. And, you know, like we've been talking about, there are definitely a ton of these examples that in your mind, in the agency walls that you're creating, whatever it is, campaign, a post, or anything along those lines, like you probably have great intent going into it, and then it gets spun. So Wendy's, they basically kind of started this whole fast food voice on Twitter, and I'm going to be sassy and I think they've done a great job, and it's kind of spilled into other, and I'm thinking like fast food, but even probably other brands, because I mean there are even brands that have nothing to do with food in general, and they're looking at Wendy's as, oh, I kind of like that persona that they're giving off. I kind of want to tap into that. So there are some instances where you can just make a joke. Like, you know, maybe it's something that's not as bad. I mean, some of these that I've named off, I probably wouldn't have replied with a joke. Right. But there are some instances where you can just like, oops, and spin it back into a joke.
Yeah, so like, see if you can turn the narrative.
Exactly.
Right? So is there a possibility to turn the narrative?
Exactly. Yeah. And then there are some cases, I mean, like the U.S. Airways, like that needs to be deleted. Like that needs to be deleted, and probably like a press release or some sort of like official like apology, like acknowledgement. I think that ignoring it is probably the worst that you can do. But definitely acknowledging your wrongs. And I think, you know, anything that is as inappropriate as that needs some sort of official apology.
So does the official apology in your mind go back? And I know that we have lots of experts who think, so you're thinking social, right? Because we've got earned media and we've got all that, right? But is it like just a social media thing, or do you think they have to like put out a press release too and put a spokesman in front of people? Or
I think so. In this instance, I feel like, you know, I said press release in the sense of like just tweeting out the press release, but now that you said press release, I don't think that they need like an official press release unless it got so far before it was deleted that it's, you know, affecting like other portions of their business, and it's like truly getting hit hard, like the business aspect of it is getting hit hard. But I think, you know, top guy, CEO, someone just come on, write a little letter. We're going to tweet that out. We might email it to anyone who is subscribed to our newsletter, just apologizing if they've seen it, something like that. I think.
And having like I'm amazed at the number of companies we run into that don't have like a crisis communications plan.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's that rose-colored glasses.
Yep.
Like nothing bad's ever going to happen. It's like, well, something bad could happen.
Exactly.
We could find out something about an executive, or you could have a bad story about an employee, like something.
Exactly.
So what is the response? Like, what do people say? What do they not say? You know, and some of our big clients, you have a person, like that's their job, right? To like do that. I took a training class on speaking, and one of the guys that was in that was only there because the company he worked with had a lot of accidents, and he was the spokesperson they were going to push forward to like talk about what they were doing to address it, both internally and externally, you know? So yeah, thinking the dark side, the horror story of if you've probably not seen Gremlins either, so never mind. So,
it's Halloween season. I'll put that on my list.
You haven't seen Gremlins?
Oh
my gosh!
I just called myself out.
Yeah, drop water on them, things like that. Whatever.
It's like one of the. It's like it's from
1982 or something. You won't.
But see, I kind of like those are like nostalgic to me. Even though I've never seen them, it's like that feel and like the way it's shot and just like. This acting is like not that great, but I love it. It's still a great movie, you know?
It's like the show Virgin River. Nothing's wrong about it. So the thing about that with thinking about those nostalgia movies too, what I love about those is watching things that happened that would never happen now because of the amount of technology we have.
Yep.
You know, like the whole premise of Home Alone would not be a thing.
Yep.
Right?
We got cell phones.
And mom would be in jail.
Yep. Mom would be in jail. Security cameras. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, you're so right about that.
So we've got time for maybe one more. You got one more that you really think is a good horror story, company? A good horror story. I guess that's a bad way to put it, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess, so this was 8-ish years ago, a 4th of July post that American Apparel, you know, they were really going for some like clouds and smoke look, just 4th of July, and whoever posted it did not realize that it was actually an image of the exploding space shuttle, the Challenger.
Wow. So they like picked a stock.
So they picked some sort of photo, kind of photoshopped, or maybe they found the photo online and it was already photoshopped, but they did not realize what it really was. I think they were maybe thinking like fireworks, smoke, red sky. I have no idea because I don't see myself being able to mistake a photo like that, but I know since this happened, and I don't think this was the fall of them, but they have kind of fallen as a brand. But I mean, that once again went viral of like, who do you have running your social? Like,
well, that's that like Google allows you to look at an image and see if it's where it might be from, right? And we watched the Netflix series about John McAfee. Like he posted a picture, and that's how they found him because he had all the geo,
That was a wild series.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for joining me and talking about it. It's always fun to talk with Stella about social media. She's always got great stories. So, so you've been listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist with Liger Partners. And if you want assistance with avoiding some of those, reach out to us and we can talk to you about some activations and ways that you should think about them from both sides. So until next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Claw podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, rate and review this podcast. And if you or someone you know wants to make an appearance on this show, email us at yourbestie@ligerpartners.com.